Hello everyone, and welcome back to Deck Driver. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about how I actually like to make decks, rather than just some decks that I've built. Now, the reason I want to do this is because I actually haven't really been brewing anything brand new recently. I've been working on a Tassiger list, but that's still a work in progress, and I'll show you guys that as soon as it's done. But I've recently stumbled across a bit more of just some deck building strategies from lessons that I've learned from other decks, particularly at CEDH levels. Now, we're not going to be talking about CEDH today, but obviously I've taken a lot of lessons from casual and put them into CEDH, and CEDH and put them into casual. The game is still the same format no matter what, it's just that they play in different ways. Now, the main goal for this video is to show you how to fully optimize your list and to optimize it even better than you probably have before. A lot of things I say in this video probably won't be the most groundbreaking things you've ever heard, but they could definitely help you with your card selection when it comes to actually building the deck that you want to build and making it the best it can possibly be. So sit back, relax, and let's talk about some deck building, shall we? And if you don't mind, YouTube says that if I ask you to like the video and subscribe, you are much more likely to do so. So that helps out the channel, and if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to do so. Let's get on with it. So as many of you probably do, I've been revisiting a lot of the decks I already own and seeing how I can make them just a little bit better, or at least play a little bit more smooth. You know, you probably have a deck that you really like, and every once in a while you just go through it and you're like, wait, why do I have this card in here? Or why do I have that card in there? And that's a good thing. That's probably because you've been playing, and the more you play, the better you get, which means sometimes you look at card selection you have in some of your decks and you're like, I don't know why this was here. There's a lot of decks on my Mox field right now that I take a look at and I'm like, ugh, I should probably delete this. The only reason I don't is because it's linked to some of my YouTube videos. But there's a lot of decks I just see that I think, man, I could do a much better job if I were to brew this to this day. And I'm sure in a couple months, maybe even a couple years, I'll feel the same way. And that segues perfectly into the approach that I've currently been taking, which I like to call the 4 pillars approach. Now, essentially every single deck needs 4 things. It needs ways to interact, it needs ways to make mana, it needs ways to draw cards, and it needs ways to win the game. Now, that might sound super obvious, but I think where the nuance comes in is how well you can combine all of these traits with one another. Sure, you could just fill your deck with really good ramp spells in the colors you're in, and really good draw spells in the color you're in, and really good interaction, and same with ways to win. You could always just fill in the best of each of those slots. The thing is that sometimes you lose a lot of synergy when you're going through that. Decks can be truly optimized for the commander they are trying to serve. It doesn't mean they need to be 100% reliant on the commander, but they have a very clear game plan and all of the cards kind of fit that game plan in a very cohesive way. I've been revisiting Strafan a lot. This is the first commander deck I've ever built, and it's a gameplay pattern that I really enjoy. I'm able to cheat out big vampire creatures, I'm able to have really good card selection with the amount of blood tokens I make, and I deal a lot of damage to my opponents. It's a perfect mix of pretty much everything I like to do at casual tables. So how did I go about using this 4 pillars approach in my recent deck build of this deck? Well, I started off by simply separating my cards into these 4 pillars, and you can do this really easily on Moxfield also. You simply make tags that say cards, game plan, interaction, and mana. That's exactly what I did. And this is where the synergy piles start to really add up. The way to make your deck as good as possible is to have as many of these cards fit multiple categories at once. This is where you'll see why some cards are staples in this format, but you'll also tend to see which cards are staples in your specific deck. I first started with the game plan. What do I want to do? Well, I want to cheat out big vampires, I want to deal a ton of damage to the table, and I at least specifically want to ping the table at least once, where every player, including myself, is losing life, so I can generate as many blood tokens as possible, so not only can I cheat out those vampires, but I also have really good card selection if I ever have mana left over. You're able to churn through a lot of your library with this deck because of those blood tokens. So in my main game plan strategy, I have a lot of pingers like Pulse Tracker. I have big scary vampires like Vein Ripper. And I have some cards like Monument to Endurance, which unironically is probably the best card in this deck. because it's able to fit all three of these categories. And then lastly, I have some combos in here which are all vampire centric. I have Bloodthirsty Conqueror and Veto, or Bloodthirsty Conqueror and Marauding Blight Priest. Those three cards are able to infinitely drain my opponents and gain me infinite life, which is just a nice way to win at bracket 3 or 4 levels. But typically I try to avoid it if I'm ever not playing at that level. So that's my game plan. Now from there, I'm able to look at my other categories and see which interaction spells can I play that fit this game plan, which card draw spells can I play that fit with this game plan, and which ways can I make mana that also fit with this game plan too. This is where your deck searching should begin, and this is where you can truly find space to optimize your list fully. In my mana category, I run cards like Cryptolith Fragment, which is not only able to tap for mana, but it also pings the entire table for 1 life, which is going to give me a Straffon trigger. I also have Descent into Avernus, which at my upkeep is going to make everyone lose life and create me a ton of treasures. Then of course I have Monument to Endurance, which I can discard a card to create a treasure token, which will help me get mana on my next turn, or this turn if I need it. These 3 cards are exceptional in this deck because they not only fit the main game plan, but they also provide me with mana. In terms of interaction, I run cards like Cardur and Disrupt Decorum, because although wiping the board is a really good idea, forcing my opponents to hit somebody other than me also fits the game plan of dealing a ton of damage to my opponents. Not only that, there are also vampires like Patron of the Vein and Markov Enforcer that allow me to remove my opponent's creatures and also be big vampires for my strategy. Lastly, a card like Rakdos Charm and Meathook Massacre are able to ping the table down quite often, with Rakdos Charm also being able to destroy an artifact or exile a graveyard. It's these spells that really show you how much interaction there is that can also fit your game plan, and how you can make your deck even more synergistic. So we've talked about mana, we've talked about interaction, and card draw is the exact same thing. Stormfist Crusader allows me to draw cards. Twilight Prophet draws cards. I have big vampires like Champion of Dusk, Crossway Troublemakers, and High Society Hunter that not only allow me to draw cards, but they're also big vampires that can hit my opponents for a lot of damage. I hope this is starting to make a lot of sense when it comes to deck building. And the more you can have these categories overlap with each other, the better your deck will be. Simple as that. Now, I don't want to get into too much more specifics about my deck as a whole, and rather just talk about the 4 pillars kind of approach to deck building. I'm starting to use this approach in literally every single deck I play, including my CEDH decks. It really helps you visualize how much of one category you have. And it gets to a point where you can have upwards of 20 to 25 cards in each of these categories because of how efficient and synergistic your deck ends up being. There is one last point I want to really kind of dive into a little bit, and that is how much you'll realize your decks are missing pieces when you actually look at your decks this way. I literally just made a video about Coma and how good that deck is, and as well as how fun and controlling I like to play with that deck. Now, the deck worked perfectly fine when I played it in real life. There was plenty of good cards, a lot of the card selection was great. I think the list performed pretty well, but what I realized is when I put it into the 4 pillars and I tried to see how much overlap there was between all the categories, there was almost nothing. I pretty much just put a lot of really good interaction spells, I put a lot of really good ramp spells, and a lot of good game plan spells and all those things. All of these cards fit really good in their own category, but almost none of them overlapped with each other. And so I realized if I don't have all of the pieces all the time, then the deck doesn't function quite as well. Sometimes I get a lot of mana, but I don't have any interaction. But that's bad because sometimes my mana can be interaction, and sometimes my mana can be card draw. So if you have more overlap, it's really going to make the deck run that much smoother. So I've actually looked back at Coma, and I've started making some changes gradually to make these categories meld together as best as possible. You really want to have as much overlap as possible between each of these categories. So a card like Rampant Growth is really good, but a card like Growth Spiral, especially in Simic with almost 40 lands, is probably a better include because it also just draws you a card. Same with cards like Planar Genesis. Planar Genesis can be just a really decent draw spell, but it also can be a ramp spell, and it digs you 4 cards deep. These are some great includes that you can switch out for just normal ramp spells in a deck like that. And the same goes for the main game plan, which is Coma, as well as how we're going to interact, and pretty much any of these categories. They're all good on their own, but when they can meld together, especially based on your main game plan, the better it will be. Now, if I were to give rough numbers for how much should be in each of these categories, you want at least 20 in the mana category, because not only does this allow you to go a little bit lighter on lands, typically around, 34, 35 lands, but it also allows you to accelerate at a decent amount, especially if you're not going to be running fast mana. For card draw, you want this to be upwards of 30 cards. The more cards you can get, the better your deck's going to be, because all of your cards are extremely synergistic. When it comes to interaction, you want hopefully to have around 20 to 25, and then for the main game plan, you need at least 30, if not even more. Now, all these numbers, obviously they add up to more than 100, but that's what we've been talking about this whole time. You want them all to overlap as best as possible so you can get to these numbers. I'll tag my Stefan list in the description here, and if you click enable tabs, you'll see that in my cards tab, I have 27 card draw spells. I have 33 cards for my main game plan. I have 24 cards that fit the interaction tag, and I have 20 cards that fit the mana tag. The only cards that don't fit anything are my lands, and I have 27 that do not fit the main game plan. Yes, that means that I have 8 lands that can help fix my game plan, which include MDFCs, as well as some specialty lands like Hideaway lands, Scry lands, and Surveil lands that all are going to help me make my game plan as good as possible. We're talking about synergy here, baby. So we need as much synergy as possible so the deck can run as smooth as possible. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoyed this kind of vibe. I wanted to be a bit more chill. I wanted to have a bit more of a relaxed kind of casual talking point. I don't want to, overdo anything. I don't want to really turn into one of those YouTubers that just tries to over sensationalize everything that they do. I've just been trying to find ways that I can really enjoy deck building and talking about deck building on this channel, because I really just don't want to be another cookie cutter creator, and I want you guys to enjoy my content for what I produce, and not because it's the next run-of-the-mill Commander channel. I've been thinking about adding some gameplay as well as live streams to my channel, and I have a secondary channel that I've been thinking about uploading my gameplay to. If I end up doing that, I'll leave a link or I'll post something, but until then, we'll just stick to this channel and we'll probably do some live streams here and there. So if that interests you, please let me know in the comments below. If you guys did enjoy this video, please like the video and subscribe to the channel if you're new. I'm also a TCG Player affiliate, so if you would like to support the channel in any way possible, you can go check out that link when you buy your next set of cards. Thank you guys all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys all next time.